Silele kunjini lo polista ngoma Ia ole Ia ole Silele kunjini.
Today, joining me on Cultural Expressions is Belinda Ncube, and she is going to help us unpack and understand even better women and African societies. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And how are you today?
Feeling well, thank you.
Feeling good, thank you. So I want us to start off by understanding women and why women. What is so important about a woman?
I think we need to understand the different roles that we play as women, and that in the absence of women, if those things were not done, what would the world look like? We go to the Bible. God creates men, and then he says it's not good for men to be alone.
Yeah.
Let me make him a helper. And God made a woman, and from there on he says this is good. So women play a very important role in our lives, in our society, particularly in the African society. We are mothers, we are wives, we are daughters, and all those roles show how important we are in our community. Yeah.
And in relation to our African society as a whole, just besides being wives and mothers and daughters, what other roles do we play in African society?
We are leaders. We are leaders starting from the home. We are the ones who nurture children. We groom them to be what they are. And that's why in Ndebele we have even a saying, intandane enhle ngekhothwa ngunina. Meaning even if you're an orphan and you're with your mother, you will not be a terrible orphan.
Yeah.
But if left to your father, well, we have some examples.
We'll rather leave it there.
Yeah. So women start leading from that point where we nurture the future leaders. And we also hold key positions. We have seen women in the past. We look at Mkabai, for example, how she was able to engineer how her father finding another wife, then they had Senzana Kona, then we have Chara from Senzana Kona. And in all that, she's behind the scenes and plotting who gets where, who gets what. And she was regent at one point. It's just one example of a powerful woman. We've had many, even in our current society, as it were. We have many powerful women. We have them in parliament. We have them in the communities. But their role is hardly spoken about. They're like silent.
And why is that? Why is it that we have a vague understanding or a vague knowledge of women who have done great things, but they're not spoken about?
I think it's because the victors are the ones who are writing. The dominant narrative is written by those who have power at this point. And it's been men all along. So they are the ones who are writing or telling the story of women. I've also been finding it interesting that when you look at powerful women from history, from even now, when a woman rises, you then start to hear stories about her, how she rose, maybe who did she sleep with, and all sorts of stories. It's almost like it's impossible for a woman to just rise on her own. It's almost like it's impossible for a woman to achieve things on her own. She must be assisted by a man. She must sleep with someone to get somewhere. And that affects the way women also view themselves. They get afraid now to rise to the occasion, to rise to positions of leadership, because they are afraid, okay, what do I need to do in order to get there? And if I am there, how will they treat me? So all those narratives affect the way women participate in public life.
So let's just go back on our history just a bit. Surely back in the day, Mama don't think when they rose to a high position in society was because they'd slept with a man and whatnot. What difference is there besides that narrative of saying Guti, people are saying she slept with someone to get to the position that she's in? What's different? What's different with that kind of society? Bearing in mind that we're using the same black people in this, but then and now, what's the difference?
You'll be surprised. I was reading about Mandantis.
Okay.
Who led the Bakloka. The men who got afraid of her eventually started creating stories that she had one eye in her forehead and that she had a big breast and she would munyisa ama socha akhe before they go to war, and that she would sleep with them and then kill them. So the narrative that women also sleep with men and what has been there in the past, but it's to distort the value that this particular woman would have brought in, you know, because of issues of sexuality are private, and once you bring them to the fore, someone wants to retreat because it's something that you do in private and you don't want to hear it in the public space. So that's much slinging around sexuality, around promiscuity, particularly directed at women, makes women shy away from that.
From that. And then when we still looking at our history, what were, besides being mothers in that cultural society in the village, what other positions of power did we see women taking up? Because when we sit in our history classes, we are told, there was Mziligas, there was Lopengula, there was this chief and that chief, but we never hear about a position of a woman that was so powerful that everyone was actually being led by that person.
We hear about many men as we read, and hardly do you even find books written about Nyamazana, for example.
Yes.
Nyamazana, a great warrior who actually fought with the last Mambo and defeated him before Mziligazi got here. But you probably hear some people making suggestions that Mziligazi is the one who, defeated Mambo. But Nyamazana had already taken care of that. And when Mziligazi got here, to avoid defeat, he married Nyamazana. Yes. Yeah. So, but you won't find her written anyway. It's oral history and it gets altered, time and attrition also affects our memories. And of course the malice, the additions to make her look monstrous. We have Queen Losgay. She led Umvugela with Logayli when her husband Lopengula disappeared. And she played a very important role as regent queen. She also sent people to Britain to discuss with Queen about the occupation that it happened in Matabeleland. So all those things are things that we need to expose even to our young girls to know that even in our history, we have had women who have risen above the circumstances. It was not very common to have regents who are women. But we had Losgay as regent queen. Yeah. We had Umantanti's regent. We had Umkabai. She also was a regent. And so all these women are shining examples, and which must be shown and told to our children so that they can see that it's not impossible to lead. And it's not a bad thing to lead, yes.
And in our current African society, what is it that we can do differently to ensure that women are just not viewed as objects or viewed as people who are just meant to be homemakers?
I think we have to address first attitudinal problems.
Okay.
There is still lots of misconceptions about the space that's occupied by women, like women belong in the kitchen. You ask what are the different roles of men and women in this community. I told, women farm, they produce children, and women, I had the shock of my life when I was doing some interviews, and I had men saying, then we drink beer and we come home and we make more children. Really? Today? But you still have, they may be said as jokes, but the fact that someone actually thought of it as a joke means somewhere at the back of their mind they're entertaining the thought that it's maybe there's an element of truth.
Now that you're mentioning
thoughts,
that joke, if once I heard that back in the day, women, when they would give birth to children, they would take their mother's name and not the father's name. And I don't know how far true that is, but if it is true, surely then means that women had such a powerful role within society, and somehow it got watered down. Because now, if I get married, I have to take my husband's name. My children take my husband's name. Why is that? Why is it that women, it's like everything, mama has to be stuffed down?
I've heard about societies where women, the children take after their mother.
Yes.
And I've also heard about the societies like the Ndebele, for example, where I am married to Ngube, but I remain Magumbo.
Yes.
And I do not lose that. So when someone comes to my home, they are saying they are going go Magumbo. And that way I'm also able to discover my own relatives. When I go to another place and I introduce myself, I say I'm Magumbo.
Yeah.
And then an old man stands up and asks, from where? We are related.
Yes.
But if I say I'm Mrs. Ngube, it will be difficult for anyone to locate me and relate me to the Gumbos.
Yeah.
So I think that has also died with our embracing also of European cultures and other cultures. In the Ndebele culture, you remained Madamasane. Madlodlo.
Yes.
You wouldn't lose your identity by marrying into the Ngubes, into whichever family you decide to marry.
Silele kunjini lopulisa ngoma.
So I've often realized that when we go into a Ndebele home, and kulabo baba nxa bebingelelana laphana, they'll start saying, unjani unkosikazi. But nxa ubaba engekho, babe sithi, mama, ubaba unjani kumbe ugumbo unjani. Is that not also, nxa besithi nkosikazi, that in itself is a powerful title? Is that not just to show that men actually do understand that women are powerful, but we are also not realizing it as ourselves as women?
I think obaba bayakwazi ukuthi omama yibo abanikazi bomuzi. For example, when I grew up, I used to visit my grandmother a lot.
Yeah.
And I realized that no one will come and ask for things in her absence. So umntwana from komakhelwane uyabuya kuthiwe ngizocela lokho. Ukhulu will not give that child anything if ugogo had not agreed. And if ugogo was not there, he'll say, hambe batshela umama kakho. Otherwise, if Gogo comes back and her dish or her whatever is not there, yes, Kulu will need to explain.
Yes.
Under whose authority those things were loaned out.
Yeah. So,
but I think we don't realize that power that we have. And it's about time we also rise up to realizing that, okay, men are aware that we are powerful, and we then come in and we take advantage of that. Well, not take advantage. Maybe we take our rightful place.
Yes.
Is equals with men, and we take our society forward. Yeah.
So speaking of marriage, you mentioned in passing about Umzilikazi when he came down that he ended up marrying Munyamanzan. And is that not in of itself a sign that marriage is now being used to sort of silence powerful women? We may look at it and see it as a beautiful joining union between two people, two powerful families. But if we dig deeper, is it not a silencing of some sort? I
think it's an interesting question that you ask, because it's twofold, really. Marriage is a beautiful thing. It's people who love each other, who think they can spend eternity together. But it's also been used in some instances to subdue women. So you observe a powerful woman in politics, in whatever sphere, then they get someone thinks, okay, let me organize another powerful man, then we get rid of that woman.
Yeah.
And then by marriage or by relationship, then that woman is silenced. So it can have that effect, that the woman then goes to the background and the man takes center stage, and the woman becomes like more behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And the man is the one who's seen, although the woman is the one giving the ideas.
And sometimes maybe not the greatest of ideas as well, because we may have instances where I want us to touch on the negativity of that also in marriage, where you have people who orchestrate, who actually say, okay, we're arranging this marriage between these two families, and they think it will yield good and positive results, not only for the two families, but for the community and society at large. Then says one good, but now Ubaba Law is now being disrupted and being fed the wrong information in the bedroom by your mama. What do you have to say about that?
It can happen. It's not all of us who are angels. Ulobengula, his rise to power was challenged by Umbigo.
Yes.
Umasuku. And Umbigo was doing that as the instigation of his wife, Uzinkabi. And Uzinkabi said, no, mina ngisendlini eqondileyo ukuthi ngene kubuseni, but uNkulumane is not there. And lo mntwana omthanyelo cannot rule. Mina ngikhona. Because I am from the house that must rule.
Yes.
In that case, Mbigo rise up and rule in my place, because these people will not accept me because I'm a woman, but you are my husband. And by virtue of that, I want you to take up the reins, the position. And the civil war started. It banned, I think, 1870 to 1871. Records show that it was a very bloody one. Ended with Zinkabi and Mbigo being killed. Some said she committed suicide because she couldn't even imagine living under the leadership of Fulobengula. But that war was planned and started by a woman in a bedroom somewhere. So, yeah, we have women who can plot, plot for good. We have women who also can plot for ill and can cause chaos.
And then also on marriage as well, are women also married off or get married to men to ensure that men can also stand tall in society? Take, for example, if my husband, okay, if he was single, and he has a position, a very powerful position in society, but people need to look at him as a family man or something, then arrangements are made for marriage. What are your thoughts on that? What influence or what kind of, is it positive or negative, can such a scenario be?
Kulomcabango ukuthi umchado uyaletha isithunzi. The idea is that when the man is not married, he lives a random life. He does as he pleases. He goes home whatever time, uses his money anyhow. But if he is married, usethola umuntu okumncedisa wokumbutha, and his thoughts are gathered, his actions are also organized. The idea then is that that man, because he now is married, he can be able to lead for, people in a better way or in an organized way. I think even the Bible says if you aspire to have some leadership, you must be husband of one.
Of one.
So there is some idea or belief that when a man is married, they have some sort of order brought into their lives. And I think Not entirely false.
Okay.
Yes, if they are on their own, they have their socks there one by one.
There's a bit of disorder, and then we come in to bring order.
And then we bring order.
And then what do we say about society has been harsh on women, and especially women that are barren, women who have become widows. Sometimes society shuns them a lot. Why is that?
You ask an interesting question. And I've always been asking myself, I've not heard in Ndebele word to describe a man who stays on his own. Like, ngesindebele umazakhela ngumama. But indoda does not have a derogative name to describe him.
Yeah.
So I think when umama is also not married or is a failure, there's some stigma attached to that.
Yeah.
There are some people also go out of their way to start to label them. They are witches, they ate their husbands. And that's very unfortunate because death befalls everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah. So you'll then find that those women who are in those unfortunate circumstances are excluded from not only decision-making positions, but also from benefits such as food aid. I met some women when I was doing some work in the communities who had been excluded because they are widowed. And the community was saying, no, you ate your husband, so you should not be on this list. And I found that very sad and unfortunate. But that's not just one case. It's one that I met. But if that thought is occurring to a certain community, I assume that there are other women who are suffering the same fate elsewhere. Yeah.
Because usually it's okay for a man to have lost his wife, and then after a year or even a year or
He
two,
can
he remarry. But a woman, on the other hand, after a year or two, no, you're still in mourning, it's still too soon. Why are there so many restrictions and rules around when a woman can remarry, or if she wants to remarry? Why are there so many restrictions?
Let me add on to that and then ask you. When the woman is widowed and she wants to remarry, she must leave that homestead and go with this man and go and start something else elsewhere. But the man can remarry in that same homestead and bring his wife and come and continue using my things and everything. Yeah. So I think those are some of the inequalities that we note. That this woman has built a lot, and unfortunately her husband has died. But she must leave everything behind because she wants to start a new life. But it's her work, it's her hard work. She's put a lot into it. Why should she then leave? When if it's the opposite, the man can just inherit and...
Because you remind me of the story of Neria, where her husband died and then her in-laws came and took everything. Them not even knowing the relationship that she had with her husband and what agreements they had. They just come. And that's a different cultural group, but African nonetheless. And I think it's so sad that women have to be subdued to such harsh conditions. How can we change that narrative? How can we change those mindsets as women?
I spoken earlier about attitude change. I think when we are grooming our children, both girls and boys, we need to groom them in such a way that they realize that there are no barriers as to what they can be. I should not teach my son that he's only meant to lead his sisters, and that the sisters should only follow and subdued by the brother. Because once they learn that in the home, they will take it to the broader community. And then it becomes difficult for my young girls to aspire to be anything beyond just following what the men are saying. And it will become difficult for my son to look at women as people that can lead as equals like him, or people that have the same potential, if I am not demonstrating it in the home. So my son must learn to cook. My son must learn to clean after himself.
Amen to that.
And and also take care of his sisters. And my girls must also learn to do the garden. They must also learn all those things that he is learning. And when they grow up, they all have equal chance at becoming whoever they want to be. They want to be engineers, fair and fine. They want to be chefs, good, let them go for it. But that they should not be limited by what I have taught them to be, that you are supposed to cook, therefore I'm grooming you to become a wife and a chef and all those things that are said to be feminine or for women. Attitude change should also be accompanied by legislation, I think an enabling environment, because for some people they will need encouragement. Yes. Girls can also inherit. Women can inherit their spouses' properties. So Zimbabwe is also making progress in terms of that. But we need enforcement so that there is appreciation of what the law is saying, even at community level, where the traditional courts sit. They need to also appreciate what is going on as we are moving towards equality between men and women, boys and girls.
And when can we invite men into our conversation as women in terms of when we are now recreating our narratives, or should we even invite them in?
I think we should invite them in.
Okay.
For me, the first stage is the confidence building, because women had been left behind for a long time. So there is some space where we are building our own confidence and talking to women in our own private space. We are women, let's support each other, let's go out there, let's go for it. And then we invite the men, because the space that we want to occupy is occupied by the men. So they must also retreat. They need to understand that we are coming in to occupy our original space where we were before we pushed away. And as we come and occupy that space, they must also open up. Affirmative action is good. But as you also see in our constitution, there will come a time when it's not there.
Yeah.
And when the affirmative action goes, it means we are now competing for the same space.
Yeah.
And we are now competing for the same space. The men need to understand that it's equal competition.
Yeah.
And open up.
Yeah. And what would be your words of or pearl of wisdom for women, and especially the younger generation? How would you encourage them to ensure that their role as women in our African societies is still as relevant?
My word of encouragement is that women have been ruling, I think, since time immemorial. We just don't realize how much power we have. We just need to look on the inside of us and ignite that. And we encourage each other and we support each other. And as we move forward as a force, I think we can make things happen. We can change lots of things.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Wathinta umfazi wathinta imbokodo, and behind every man is a woman. These are some sayings that we've always heard in societies, but what is it saying and showing us? That women are very important within the society, and without us women, there really is no definite African society. Do you agree with me or you don't? Please let me know as we continue our conversation on women and the African societies. Follow the hashtags on your screen. This has been Cultural Expressions. I'm your host, Lady Chawe Umahlolo. See you next week.
Silele kunjini lo polisa ngoma.